This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Let us not fall into a fundamentalist ditch. This is Wretched Radio. If you recall your evangelical history in America in the 20th century, evangelicals were growing courtesy of two great awakenings, but the predominant Baptistic movement would be described as fundamentalist. Why? Because they believe in the fundamentals. What does that mean for evangelicals? It means we have fellowship with one another. We don't hate one another. But we do see historically the roads that evangelicals and fundamentalists took, and they are unfortunately still wide. We're separated by too much, and we shouldn't be. Fundamentalist Baptists, I disagree with my brothers and sisters about some things. What type of Bible to use, what type of clothing women wear, going to movies. None of these issues is included in any sort of historical statement of faith of orthodoxy that I'm aware of. They have the fundamentals down. So do evangelicals. That means we're going to be spending eternity in heaven together. I think it was the letter of John Newton that reminds us, when you're talking about somebody who's a brother, just remember, before you do, that person's going to be your dearest friend for all of eternity in heaven. Like everybody's going to be, by the way. Who's your best friend in heaven? Everyone. That's how it's going to work. We're going to be in Christ together. Jesus will be the center of attention, and we will not be with each other. Now, please note, outside of orthodoxy, that's fine. With brothers and sisters, you need to remember, we're going to be spending a long eternity with them, and we should consider how it is we talk about them and even associate with them. The fundamentalists saw what was going on in the world. You can thank in part. It was perhaps the catalyst, sort of like the 95 Theses on the Door was the catalyst of the Reformation, but there were things that were trickling, nevertheless, until the Scopes Monkey trial, which made fundamentalist Christianity look like we were rubes. And the fundamentalist movement, this is a simplification, certainly, they decided we are going to back off and we're going to get out of the culture wars. We're not going to bring our Christianity outside of the church. And so it is. They became more inwardly focused. Evangelicals came along. We'll call it 1950. Billy Graham probably leading the way, saying, no, we need to be more engaged. Billy Graham regularly spoke on big issues, war issues, communism issues, threats of foreign nations, economy issues. It was very loaded with political speak. And so it is, the evangelicals and the fundamentalists found themselves drifting further and further apart because one movement wanted nothing to do with culture. The other movement increasingly became consumed with nothing but culture, where we are just here to try to make sure certain politicians are in office, that certain policies are being implemented, which, by the way, all fine things. But that almost has become the hallmark of what evangelical Christianity is known as. You can take a look at a whole lot of studies and surveys out there, and you will see that people believe that evangelicals predominantly are political beings. It's as if we're not a Christian denomination or movement. We're a political action committee. On the one hand, you've got fundamentalists. On the other hand, you've got evangelicals. Which path is right? Which road should we be on? I wonder if our brothers and sisters in the Southern Baptist Convention might be considering this as their meeting soon draws together 13,000 messengers of the Southern Baptist Convention. Wondering if this isn't a conversation we should reconsider. What is the role of the church, which is a different question than what is the role of an individual in the world? What is it? And why is the world really hating us so much? And they're thinking that we're just idiots who need to be silenced for our beliefs. Once again, you can take a look at a fair amount of polls, and you will see that people think that evangelicals are way too political. And what's happened with that is we identify with a political party. The political party isn't liked, therefore we're not liked. I believe it's the associative property. I don't want to get all mathematical on you. The associative, is it property? The associative, there's the transitive and there's the associative. It's one of those. They're just sometimes when I don't want to look too smart and throw out all these big terms. Todd, we don't think you're in danger of that. What is the road that we are to be on? What is our message to the world? Is it possible? I'm just asking this, and believe me, this is a loving question. This is not a snark. Well, I'm not Southern Baptist. I want Southern Baptists to succeed. They're brothers and sisters, a lot of very good ones. Well, not like there's bad brothers and sisters, but you get my point. They're orthodox, and we want the denomination to not divide and to not get weakened and to not compromise. But is it also possible that the Southern Baptist Convention is doing the opposite of compromising on social issues and maybe just too engaged in them? Let me offer, as a case in point, and perhaps something for all of us to ponder, SBC or not, why is CRT the big debate at this year's Southern Baptist Convention? Why? The answer, I believe, is pragmatism, because this is a movement of evangelicalism that insists on being engaged. How do I know that they're engaged politically? Well, it's the ERLC, which has just been abandoned by Russell Moore, which, by the way, for whatever it's worth, Russell Moore caused all kinds of controversies in the SBC. Why? Because so much of it was political. He also caused some consternation regarding CRT, but there was just a lot of people that were getting annoyed with him because they thought he was a liberal. That's because the ERLC is a political action committee. It is located in Washington. Why not Lincoln, Nebraska, where it's cheaper and, frankly, I think really, really pretty. Lincoln is a really cool little town. The ERLC is a political arm of the Southern Baptist Convention. Why? Because they are on the evangelical road of being engaged politically. They believe that is how we can be salt and light. And to a degree, I don't disagree with that. The question is, what is the degree that we should be participating, and what is our message to the world? Is it possible that the SBC is embroiled in CRT because the world is embroiled? Isn't it true that the church tends to follow along with culture? George Barna would say always about 18 months behind. I think it's usually longer, but who am I to argue with the great pollster? We tend to ape the culture. They're talking about it, we're talking about it. So I'm just wondering, what if our churches talked about Jesus Christ, the gospel, tended to the sheep, addressed social issues as it's affecting the local church and its people, and that's it. Administer the ordinances. Preach the word two times, in season and out of season. Do the work of evangelists. Make the most of every opportunity. Go and make disciples. Is it maybe time for the Southern Baptist Convention and those of us who aren't to consider what are we doing in this world? Now, do I think that we should be like fundamentalists who have disengaged almost entirely from all social issues? No, I don't. I think we should talk about them. I think we should discuss them. We should know where we stand on them. We can talk about it in Sunday school classes, and the pastor can preach it from the pulpit as he sees fit. But to get fully embroiled and fully immersed into political movements, social movements, even economic movements, I know we have something to say about it. I know. But the world is hating us because they don't see us so much as being followers of Jesus Christ, but it's their perception, and this actually isn't much of an exaggeration. They see us more as followers of Donald Trump. Which road should we be on? Because as we travel this weary road, the world is increasingly hating us. And I wonder if we're responding likewise, because we're seeing everything through a political filter. They're wrong on abortion. They're wrong on marriage. They're wrong on genders. They're wrong on free speech. They're just wrong. And it agitates us when we're called to love our enemies, because we don't see them as a political opponent. We see them as the harvest field. And therefore, as the world hates us, we need to be loving them. And maybe the reason that we're not doing that as much as we should is because we see them more as a debate opponent on Fox News. The world is lost. Of course, they're bearing dumb fruit. They don't need better thinking. They need Jesus. That is how we respond to the love of the world growing cold. This is Wretched Radio. Pepperoni pizza for Pete, which in an odd way is a lot like the difference between imputation and expiation. Are you familiar with the difference, Pete?
I didn't order a pizza?
But it actually in Latin means completely, to completely atone. It's a Latin word, expiationem, and yet an action noun because it comes from the past participle stem of